economic figures today show we're all getting poorer again, and we're led by the most incompetent Chancellor in history, Rachel Reeves. And there are some very big questions. She said she worked for 10 years at the Bank of England, turns out it was 5.5. Said she was an economist at the Bank of England, turns out she was in customer service. And on expenses, well, she had very big problems when she worked for a bank, and as a Member of Parliament, had a credit card taken away.
Nigel Farage never holds back, and Rachel Reeves is feeling the heat once more. Another day, another political scandal, but this one's got everyone talking. Reeves, who has been pushing the idea that she worked at the Bank of England for a full decade, has been caught out. Turns out it was only 5.5 years. A minor slip-up? Not really, especially when you're handling the country's finances. Honesty isn't just expected, it's everything.
Well, I'm an economist. I studied economics. I got a master's in economics from the London School of Economics, and I worked as an economist at the Bank of England.
That's one. Let's have Reeves on her CV.
Why did you say that you'd worked at the Bank of England for a decade when in fact it was, well, it wasn't even 6 years, it was 5? I mean, that's exaggeration, isn't it?
Well, I worked at the Bank of England for 6 years, between 2000 and 2006. I was employed by the Bank of England, including I spent just over a year at the British Embassy working in the economics section there, supporting the government and the bank.
Why did you say it was a decade?
Well, I think it's one interview. I worked at the Bank of England for 6 years. I worked for then at Halifax Bank of Scotland, I think, for 3 years after that. I became an MP when I was 31. But I think in the end, people want to judge me on the job that I'm doing today as Chancellor of the Exchequer. I'm qualified to do this job. But in the end, people are going to judge me. Am I growing the economy? Am I improving their living standards? And I'm determined to do just that.
Nigel Farage didn't waste a second calling out Rachel Reeves, highlighting her pattern of misleading statements. This isn't her first rodeo. She's already had her parliamentary credit card revoked after racking up over £4,000 in unpaid expenses. Now she's trying to sell the public on the idea that the UK economy is growing, citing a measly 0.1% increase. Farage, like many others, isn't buying it. The question is, how long can she keep this up? With trust in politicians at rock bottom and pressure mounting, this could be the moment that defines her career. Will she come clean, or will the cracks keep widening? It turns out Reeves has been caught exaggerating her CV, again. She claimed nearly a decade of experience at the Bank of England, but official records show it was only 5.5 years. Farage isn't just criticizing her for the sake of it, he's pointing out a bigger issue. How can the public trust a politician who bends the truth about her own career? In 2015, Reeves had her parliamentary credit card suspended for unpaid expenses. If she can't manage her own finances, how can she be trusted with the country's economy? Reeves' attempt to paint a 0.1% growth rate as a win has been met with skepticism. Farage called it what it is: stagnation dressed up as progress. The bottom line? Trust and honesty matter. When leaders can't be upfront about their past or the state of the economy, it raises serious questions about their credibility. Farage isn't letting this slide. Nigel Farage isn't holding back, and Rachel Reeves is in the hot seat, again. She's claiming the UK economy is on the rise, pointing to a measly 0.1% growth. But let's be honest, that's not growth, it's stagnation barely keeping its head above water. Farage argues this is the result of poor economic management, government overreach, and policies that squeeze businesses and working families instead of helping them. If this is what Reeves calls progress, the UK is in serious trouble. The irony? While everyday Brits tighten their belts, MPs are pocketing pay raises. Reeves mentions it casually, but Farage sees it as proof of a political class utterly disconnected from reality. How can they celebrate salary bumps while telling the public to wait for a slow recovery? It's a slap in the face to families struggling with rising energy bills, soaring grocery costs, and shrinking paychecks. Reeves claims the economy is growing, but with GDP per head falling for 2 consecutive quarters, the UK is technically in recession. Farage isn't impressed. He calls out Reeves' spin on 0.1% growth as nothing but smoke and mirrors. The only real growth? MP salaries, which have jumped 2.8%, pushing their earnings to around £100,000, plus allowances and expenses. Are they being rewarded for success? Farage thinks not. This isn't just about weak economic figures. Reeves' credibility is crumbling. She's been caught exaggerating her tenure at the Bank of England, claiming a decade when it was only 5.5 years. Add that to her history of financial mismanagement, like racking up £4,000 in unpaid expenses, and it's clear why Farage and others are questioning her leadership. The bigger issue? Trust. Politicians make big promises, but if they can't be honest about their own careers, how can they be trusted to run a country? Reeves claims she's the one to fix the UK economy, but her track record raises serious doubts. Farage isn't just calling out mistakes, he's exposing a pattern of deception. With elections looming and trust in politicians at an all-time low, this scandal could hurt not just Reeves but her entire party. The stakes couldn't be higher. Will she come clean, or will the cracks in her credibility keep widening? Farage knows how to tap into public frustration, and Reeves is making his job easy. The question is, can she recover from this, or is her reputation beyond repair?